So my good friend DJ and one of my favorite family, a family of nerds if you will, sent in this question. What comic book character do you think could never be adapted to live action because it just couldn't work? Can't say Wonder Twins. Well, I'm not going to say Wonder Twins for sure because I do believe it can work under the right circumstances. Those circumstances before just weren't right. But I am going to use a character that I don't think anyone would have thought of at all, and that is the character of Frank Rook. You know how the Punisher's name is Frank Castle? Well, this Punisher's name is Frank Rook, and he's black. The issue with this character, though, and why it could never be brought to screen, is because they're one and the same person. That's right. There was a story in which Frank Castle turned into a black man. Now, in a Punisher comic from the 90s, 1991 specifically, Frank is actually sent to prison and he's immediately assaulted by his arch nemesis Jigsaw, one of the only characters that he actually leaves alive. I guess he doesn't leave him alive, he just doesn't get a chance to kill him. And if you've seen the Punisher movie from, I want to say early 2000s, you know that Jigsaw is a character that has his face sliced up by the Punisher. And Jigsaw decides to return the favor. He doesn't want to kill Frank Castle, not yet, but he just wants to slice up his face. And it's kind of gruesome. He really gets his face pretty crazy. The thing that's wild about this is that Frank having this scarred up face actually helps him escape prison with some other inmates as they're making their attempt. He meets up with a former surgeon who ends up being a heroin addict and a hooker, and he asks her to perform plastic surgery on his face and make him unrecognizable because he's trying to escape the cops as well as some other gang members. And she does just that. She tells him before the surgery starts, you know that the reason I got kicked out of my medical profession is because I started taking heroin. They stripped me of my license. And at the time that they kicked me out, I was actually working on tissue regeneration and melanin. He cuts her off and said, look, I don't care about none of that, whatever. Just make me unrecognizable. So unrecognizable that my best friend couldn't recognize me. She puts him under anesthesia, she performs the surgery, and he wakes up 5 days later. Frank, being his impatient self, when he wakes up, he's like, 5 days, 5 days? Give me a mirror, I need to see how I look. She's like, hey, we might need to have a conversation about this because I really want you to be prepared for what you're about to see. And he's like, no, damn all that. And he, with her help, unwraps those bandages and he has a black face. He's in full melanated, skininated blackface. He's like, what the hell is this? She says, you wanted me to make you unrecognizable. He just leaves. You think that this story can't get any worse, but it does. He ends up in Chicago, where immediately he's pulled over by the police. And one of the wildest things I've ever seen in the comic book happens during this scene. The cops are racist as hell. They're saying things like, what's the matter, boy? Cat got your tongue? And then another cop says, or maybe a coon's got your tongue. The cop calls this black man a coon. And then Punisher says this: sometimes my reflexes betray me. I had no patience for bigots when I was white. Now that I'm black, I don't like it any better. Now that I'm black, I don't like it any better. Who authorized this story? This story can never come to the big screen. It can never come to the small screen. It can never come to your screen or my screen. It's not coming to the screen. Now, it does get a little crazier when he ends up meeting up with Luke Cage, who saves him from this police assault. He says, 2 on 6, I like those odds. So he joins up, gets shot. Punisher's like, what the hell just happened? How did that bullet bounce off of you? And Luke Cage just plays it off. He's like, I took my vitamins this morning. And then when he asks Punisher his name, he says, yeah, my name is Frank Rook. Now, if you've ever played chess, you know that there's a rook that is kind of in the shape of a castle. So he changed his name to Frank Rook from Frank Castle. From there, Luke Cage and his new black friend go to clear out a crack house of the drug dealers that are taking over that building. But Luke Cage has a no-kill rule. So the entire time this is happening, Punisher is monologuing about how he can't kill these people because he's playing by Luke Cage's rules. And after the mission is complete, the Black Punisher leaves. He dips off on Luke Cage, because the melanin starts to fade. He starts to get essentially vitiligo. Then later on in the story, he comes back and helps Luke Cage on another mission as his full white self, and that's how the story ends. They only lasted about 3 issues. I believe it's Punisher number 59 to number 61 back in 1991. The one comic book character that for sure won't make an appearance is Frank Rook, the Black Punisher.